Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
The Projection Booth is single-handedly the greatest film podcast you could ever listen to or could possibly want.
Top notch. 5 stars. This has quickly become one of my favorite film-related podcasts. Always interesting.
A completely unpretentious yet fully comprehensive look at films from all genres.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. With me is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
It's been a long week, but it's f***ing Friday.
Woo!
Oh, and also joining us is Lisa Gullickson, wife dork.
I'm not going to start out that aggressive. I'm just going to be like, happy Friday, everybody.
And Brad Gullickson, mouth dork.
I'm going full Ivan Drago aggressive. We must break you.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith, the Disco Dork. And welcome to the It Modcast podcast, Fistful Friday.
Yay!
You kind of showing your hand a little bit there with that opening there?
Showing his fists.
Showing your fist there.
Yeah, Rocky IV's on my list.
And that list would be a fistful of fist fights. And this is in honor of the Charlie Day and Ice Cube comedy that was released today. Fist fights.
Coffee.
Oh, yeah. And so I know that on the podcast previously we've had a similar, sort of similar fistful and a fistful of verses. But this one, we're going to be very specific. We're not going to cut any corners. There are picks on that fistful of verses that we have deemed it. You cannot use them on this one.
But I want to.
Only specific people. But other dorks can use those.
No, that's for everybody.
What? I didn't. There were rules. I wasn't, and then
so
I didn't
because
listen.
we had a fist, and this is for the listeners. Like, why would we subject the listeners to something we've done already?
If Brad picked it, I didn't pick it.
But so
I didn't know that one
our-
because I didn't re-listen, so I don't know what we had on
But
our fistful.
I did re-listen to make sure that we weren't repeating a fistful. Turns out your fistful of verses was never specifically involving a fight, a physical fight.
Okay, good. So I'm pretty safe with whatever I picked.
Brad, you did use, rightfully so, They Live, which is an epic fight, and so you were right to have that on your fistful. So you cannot use that on your fistful of fist fights. So we want to give the listeners some diversity in our conversation. That's the reason why, not to make it more difficult for you, Brian, but we're doing it for the listeners. We want to give them some more diversity in what we talk about and what they hear from us, so they can spark different conversations. So, with that being said, Brian, you're number 5, and you're fistful of fisticuffs.
Well, I guess now I got to change my list around.
Audible.
Let's start with Mortal Kombat.
Oh, Mortal Kombat!
Again, like you said, you guys said fist fights.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is my list, and I'm doing it my way, like Sinatra. And I picked the actual fight between Reptile and Liu Kang. There's no weapons. This is all fights with just them.
Is Reptile in the first Mortal Kombat?
When that little creature that's following them, and then when they go to the other world,
statue.
and he gets in the statue.
That's not Annihilation?
No, and then because you hear, I don't know where this voice comes from. He transforms into Reptile.
The narrator.
And then it says, Reptile. To let you know that it's Reptile.
I got to watch that movie again.
Yeah, it's Paul W.S. Anderson.
Yeah, I watched it like 3 months ago. I don't remember Reptile.
But this was actually my favorite fight. And as a kid, as a teenager in 1995 watching this, it just filled me with so much joy seeing Reptile. Because, I love those characters. And this first movie really had all the characters from the video game. But I think Reptile was like a hidden character in the first. So when I saw it, because I didn't expect him to be in the movie. So when Reptile was in the movie, that was like a fist bump moment for this 17-year-old kid.
A fist bump with who, Brian?
Well, more like a Arsenio Hall, like whoop,
Fist
whoop,
pump.
whoop. Yeah,
Fist pump.
Fist pump. There you go. There you go. Slurred my words a little bit. Anyway,
I like the image of a solo fist bump because that's my life.
yeah, fist pump. But yeah, I mean, I was like, oh man, Reptile's in this movie, and then he has this badass fight with Liu Kang, and then you see Liu Kang do the bicycle kick, and I mean, it was just choreographed great for that time period, I thought, and it was just a lot of fun to see. So yeah, my number 5 is Reptile but fighting Liu Kang.
Fist fighting.
All right, Wife Dork, your number 5, and your fistful of fist fights.
My number 5 is in honor of this week's homework cast, and so it is Arnold Schwarzenegger versus the Predator in Predator.
Yeah.
So, as the lore goes, the Predator will not fight. He's a predator, yes, and he has no respect for human life, but he does have respect for sportsmanship.
Yeah.
So if he sees that you are unarmed, he too shall be unarmed, and you will engage in some fisticuffs, which quickly becomes just pummeling Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is fun.
It's pretty much a one-sided fight.
It's practically a slap fight.
Do you know what? That one thing that the Predator never learns from humanity, and if he did take this from humanity, he would be unstoppable and probably defeat the human race. Is booby traps. He's never like, you know what? I need to hang a log or two. That's not a euphemism.
Well, in Predators, they actually do set booby traps.
What?
In Predators,
only the first 2 movies count.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Brad, your number 5 in your fistful of fights.
So, as I so cleverly alluded to at the top of this episode, Rocky IV, it's got to be here. Yep. I mean, frankly, if you're talking fist fights, I feel like boxing has to get involved at some point. Yeah. And for me, the ultimate boxing movie is not Raging Bull. It is not The Setup. It is not The Champ. It is not Girl Fight. I haven't seen that film. It is Rocky IV.
Agreed.
But what I want to specifically talk about isn't, the Drago Apollo Creed fight, and it's not the Rocky Apollo Creed fight. It's the opening title sequence of Rocky IV that just tells you that you are in for the most epic of films. And it is one Soviet balloon glove versus one USA balloon glove. And they charge together, and when they collide, they smash and they explode.
Yeah.
Rocky IV. That is my number 5 fist fight. Balloon glove commie versus balloon glove patriot. Boom! America wins.
Sylvester Stallone takes on communism all by himself.
All right. My number 5 is from the 80s. A nice little sweet spot in my heart. For whatever reason, I just adored this movie. And it's 3 O'Clock High. It's sort of similar to what we have with the Ice Cube and Charlie Day film, but it stars Casey Siemaszko and Richard Tyson.
I don't know who that is.
If you see him, you'll know who he is.
I've never seen 3 O'Clock High.
Yeah, it's just about this nerd who there's a silent new.
Oh, I remember that movie.
There's a silent new bad boy at the school, played by Richard Tyson, and this nerd who's not trying to step on anyone's toes, accidentally pisses this guy off. And thus he proclaims, at 3 o'clock today, I'm going to whoop your ass. And so he has 6 hours to try to get out of it and to either pay someone else to fight the guy for him or to feign ill or just try to make sure that this does not take place. Well, ultimately, at the end of the film, it's unavoidable and he has to stand up to this bully. But there, in between that, there are these other characters. There's his girl, his female friend who's in the friend zone, who really likes him, and then there's other characters, these quirky little weird characters that populate the film that are either trying to help him get out of it or are pushing him closer to it. And I just remember watching this film actually, you know what? I know what the reason is that I love this film is because firstly it was funny. Secondly, there's this girl in the film who's his friend, who's his platonic female friend. She had this short bob haircut, a little slight little gap in her teeth. But I just thought she was so pretty. I thought she was so cute. I used to watch the movie just for her. But anyway, she was his best friend, and she stood up for him. And at the end of the film, when he ultimately comes to blows with this guy, he actually has to fight the guy. I don't want to spoil it for you to tell you how it ends, because maybe it doesn't end like how you think it ends. I don't know how you think it ends, so that's why I said maybe. But yeah, this is a little known film from the 80s, but it's a really good and funny little comedy in the vein of like a Ferris Bueller or something like that. So yeah, 3 O'Clock High. That's my number 5. Brian, your number 4 in your fistful of fist fights not include using your feet.
I'm gonna go with kind of piggybacking off of Brad, going with Sylvester Stallone. I'm picking the Expendables, but I was thinking because at first when I was thinking about this pick, I was thinking like that fight scene with Jason Statham with the guys on the basketball court after that dude roughs up Charisma Carpenter's character. But
How dare he?
I know, but then I was thinking, okay, I think there's a better fight in that movie with Sylvester Stallone and Stone Cold Steve Austin towards the end, where they have that mano-a-mano fight down in that tunnel in the castle. I know you guys are looking like you don't remember this. I only remember this because I recently just rewatched the movie like a week or two ago. But yeah, he has a fight with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and it's just, you got to think, Sylvester Stallone, when he made this movie at the time, he was like 64, 65 years old.
Is this the fight he broke his neck?
Yeah. Yeah. And like this dude is doing crazy stuff. And he's 70 now and talking about doing a fourth Expendables movie. But just to be at that age and with that type of physicality and doing those type of movements at his age, fighting Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Stallone is 70 years old.
Yeah, he's 70 years old. It looks good for his age, too. But yeah, like 64, 65 when he shot the first Expendables, and
that's nuts.
Yeah, and like doing those wrestling type moves where it's crazy. Like I hope I can move that way.
That's bad on your joints and your bones and your body at a young age.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's nuts.
Yeah, it's wild. But it was a pretty cool like little fight scene in that movie. Not that long, but
the only thing I remember from that movie. It ain't that.
What? Oh, Terry Crews.
Yeah, that's it.
It takes place during that sequence.
Oh, okay. And that's the first one?
Yeah, that's the first one. I really like that first movie. But that whole sequence, I was even thinking about that Jet Li, Jason Statham in that tunnel.
When they kicked that dude.
But Jason Statham was using a knife, so I figured, okay,
not a fist fight.
It's not a knife fight, it's fist fights. Right. So I decided to do Sylvester Stallone.
All right, good. I'm proud of you for adhering to the rules. All right. Lisa.
Yeah.
Your number 4, F-O.
My number 4 is a boxing scene. But it is not from a boxing movie. It is from the 2009 film Sherlock Holmes.
Ah,
was that on yours?
We think alike. Yes, I have it on mine, but I have a backup. I have a spare.
It's such a great fist fight.
Yes.
Because it emphasizes the fact that fist fights are not just about brain. They're also I said it backwards. I'm a genius. It's not just about I would clearly not be good in a fist fight for 2 fucking reasons. I'm scrawny and I'm an idiot. But Sherlock Holmes' advantage is his ability to reason to such a degree that he is practically seeing into the future, and he can anticipate every move of his opponent to get the advantage. And I love the way that they use Guy Ritchie uses the stop motion, the narration, and of course, whenever I'm going to call him Tony Stark because that's what
Robert Downey Jr.
Whenever Robert Downey Jr. Has an advantage as a character, whether he's playing Tony Stark or Sherlock Holmes, he always has this incredulous look on his face, not at the idea of like, look at the amazing, like, I can't believe what I just did, but this look on his face, like, I can't believe you didn't see that I was going to do that.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, how did you not know that I would just win this fight right now?
Yeah.
So, so that's why that's my number 4, and clearly your number 4
Great
as
minds
well.
think alike, Lisa.
Indeed, it's a great
That's from the
scene.
first film, right?
Yeah, I
Do
love
you-
that movie.
The second film, I think towards the end, he has a fight with Moriarty, right?
Yeah, do they fist fight?
They do. It's where they have like a brain off, where they
That's
anticipate
right.
Oh,
each
yeah.
other's move.
That's fun.
That's right. Okay.
All right, B, you're number 4.
My number 4 is Jack Starrett's Slaughter, the Jim Brown film. I talked about it a little bit on my Week in Dork, and I've written an article on Film School Rejects because that's all I do now is horror for them, and you should read all my articles there, and I horror for myself. But in Slaughter, the plot of that film is Jim Brown's parents, who are loosely connected to the Cleveland mob, blow up in a car in the beginning. And Slaughter, former Green Beret, he goes on a manhunt to find the dirtbag responsible for his parents' death. And it leads him down to South America, an unnamed country, where he is going to encounter Rip Torn's Dominic Hoffa. But before he can, get vengeance for his parents' murder, he scopes the land. He's always wearing a really nice suit. I mean, Jim Brown can fill out a suit like nobody's business. I gotta like tuck and squish and hide all the lumps. But Jim Brown can proudly display his lumps, his very, very manly lumps.
Yeah.
And he's in a hotel. He's going back to his room. And it's this long shot. Jack Starrett, the director, just takes his time following Jim Brown down the corridors of this hotel room. And there's no score. It's very silent. He's walking to his room. He reaches into his pockets. He takes out his keys. He unlocks the door. And there is a very white Don Gordon. And Don Gordon just goes, "Hi!" But the thing is, you don't just appear inside Jim Brown's hotel room. Because Jim Brown is going to punch you square in the face. And it is such a powerful and shocking fist to the face. I love how Don Gordon falls. His performance in Collapse is just so exquisite, and he tries to like man up a little bit because now he's been utterly humiliated by one cold cock from Jim Brown. He tries to fight him in his hotel room, and Jim Brown just throws him off the balcony, and they both go tumbling into the pool, and then Jim Brown proceeds to beat his ass in the pool until Don Gordon can say, whoa, I'm a cop, I'm on your side, we're buddies. And from that point on, it becomes a buddy cop film, Lethal Weapon style. Mm-hmm. But that first punch is just like, that is a great land. It is, ooh, and Don Gordon, so surprised.
Yeah. All right. My number 4. Yes, it's true. I did have Sherlock Holmes on my list, but because I know that Lisa is a Guy Ritchie fan,
oh yeah,
I was prepared. I knew she might have that on her list, so I came with an alternate, and it's still a Guy Ritchie film, and it's Brad Pitt's final fight in Snatch with the big brawler. He's supposed to throw this fight, lest his gypsy brethren get slaughtered by Bricktop's men, but he does not. In the 4th round, he decides to give it back and knock the guy out. So prior to this, though, and the same thing applies to this fight sequence as Sherlock Holmes. Guy Ritchie uses speed ramping and slow motion to great effect. There's this one shot where he gives you the shot where Brad Pitt's character is hit with an uppercut and he flies up in the air, and just as his body is about to hit the mat, the shot goes to him hitting some water and landing underwater. So you see it visualize him being knocked out, and he's just floating in this water, and sound is muted out. But when he comes to, he wakes up and hits the guy with the punch, and it's a visually arresting sequence. Like, it's so beautiful the way that Guy Ritchie shoots that, and it's one of the things that stand out to me the most in that film. It's just his fight sequences. And there's another fight sequence earlier when One Punch Mickey knocks the guy out in one punch in the barn. I was going to use that one, but that one really wasn't a fight because the other guy didn't throw a punch back. But this one, he does get some licks as the guy's supposed to win, as he's supposed to throw that fight. But he fights back and knocks him out. So I figure this one qualifies more. But yeah, a great film. I need to revisit this film. This was on my Fistful not too long ago with the opening sequences. But yeah, it has to be Snatch with Brad Pitt's One Punch Mickey and his final fight. Brian, you're number 3.
Oh man, just as you said, number 3. Well, no. Okay. Well, the film is my number 3 is Die Hard, and this the final fight with Carl and John McClane.
That's a good one.
I was going to use that one.
Oh, great fight. I mean, it's I mean, everything that's building up to that moment. With Carl, the fact that John McClane killed his brother, there's a lot of revenge, there's a lot of anger there. And then just everything that John McClane has just been through, and he's just beat and battered and bruised. And I mean, you can just feel just everything that's going on in that fight between these two characters in that moment. And then just the punches that, I mean, just everything that Bruce Willis does to him, and then him talking to him like I'm gonna cook you, then I'm gonna fucking eat you. It's like, it's so great just seeing that fight. Yeah, that's my number 3. Yeah, John McClane and Carl with a K.
All right, Lisa, you're number 3.
My number 3 is from okay, how should I intro this? So, we've talked about calculated fights, the fights of boxers. We've talked about the fights of trained fighters, of soldiers, and of MMA type people. That's what I think that Mortal Kombat is about, by the way. But the thing is, there is no bar for entering into a fist fight. Literally anyone can do it. And all you need is a passion. And there's no greater passion than the passion of a child. So that's why I am going when Ralphie wails on Scott Farkas in A Christmas Story.
That kid goes down.
Oh, yeah. And like how quickly Scott Farkas goes from being this really intimidating and grating and terrible person to being a child once Ralphie really, and like he is, everybody is just so distraught, and like once that plug is pulled and Ralphie's child rage comes out, he is ruthless. Yeah. He is ruthless.
Savage.
But that's Scott Farkas. He had it coming. He's a real prick.
He had yellow eyes.
And his friend Grover, too. He can suck it.
All right, that's a good pick. Oh, man, Scott Farkas. What a rotten name. Brad, you're number 3?
My number 3 comes from a Richard Pryor, Gene Wilder team-up. Probably their least popular, but my absolute favorite. And that's See No Evil, Hear No Evil. Early on in the film, when Pryor and Wilder are becoming friends, well, first you need to know that Wilder is a deaf man and Richard Pryor is a blind man. You see how the comedy can ensue? They go to a bar to pick up some ladies. And, of course, given some orchestrated, manipulated machinations of the script, Richard Pryor offends one of the bar patrons, and the bar patron's like, well, we're going to fight. And Pryor, who could probably stop the whole thing by just saying, look, dude, I'm blind. You don't want to punch a blind guy. He refuses to back down. That's like the first thing you learn about his character is he will not let his handicap stop him from doing anything. And that includes getting his ass kicked. So Wilder it becomes the eyes for Pryor, and he stands behind Pryor, and he gives kind of does like this rock'em sock'em robot situation where he directs the punches of Pryor towards this bar stool asshole. And he'll say like 11 o'clock, and he punches 11 o'clock, and he hits the guy. 12 o'clock, punches the guy. 1 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and he gets his time mixed up, and he punches a lady. And then it's just like mass chaos in the bar, and other people are jumping in to beat on these two guys who refuse to let what others see as a handicap stop them from doing what everyone else just takes for granted.
Yeah.
And that's being drunk assholes. And it's such a silly scene, but it's completely endearing as well. And, it sets these two guys up as chums for life and the perfect two individuals who are going to fall bass backwards into a gold coin heist, wrongfully accused plot involving Kevin Spacey's British villain and Joan Severance naked in a shower. Not to mention Anthony Zerbe straight off the set of The Omega Man. It's a wild, weird, cheesy, stupid at times. Definitely not as funny as, say, Silver Streak or what's their other big one? Silver Streak, Stir Crazy. But it's the one that just showed up on HBO every Sunday, and I just watched that movie over and over and over again. And it's where I really fell in love with these two performers.
I love seeing them together. I love seeing Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder together.
So much so when you see a film, you talked not too long ago about The Toy, which is a great Richard Pryor movie.
Yeah.
But when they're together, that's where it feels like they belong. They belong side by side.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
And what's interesting is they weren't really buddy off of the Hollywood set.
Yeah.
They were friendly, but for whatever reason, when the camera was on those two, you believe that they were best friends.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Good pick. My number 3 is a film from 1984. I don't hear a lot of people talking about this film, which is a shame because, in this day where we have, a film with all black cast like Moonlight in Oscar contention and, upcoming superhero movie Black Panther with an all black cast. This is a film that had an all black cast with impeccable performances throughout, and it's a 1984's A Soldier Story, and it stars Howard E. Rollins Jr. He's Captain Davenport. Adolph Caesar, Sergeant Waters, David Allen Greer is in it. Robert Townsend is in it, and the one of the main actors in it is a young Denzel Washington. It's Private First Class Peterson. So Howard E. Rollins Jr.'s Captain Davenport is investigating a murder on an army base of a NCO, which is Adolph Caesar's Sergeant Waters. Now he goes to this army base to find out what happened, and in doing so, you get flashback scenes of Sergeant Waters and his tyranny over his lower enlisted soldiers. And one of his soldiers happens to be Private First Class Peterson, played by Denzel Washington. And Adolph Caesar's Sergeant Waters was a monster. He was a monster to these soldiers, and he really had taken a shine to Denzel Washington's Private First Class Peters. And in one scene, they are doing what I would assume has evolved to what would be known today as combatives, is when you get in a circle and you fight your fellow soldiers. But you either put on pads and you get like pugil sticks or whatever, or we do wrestling and wrestling training and hand-to-hand combat type techniques. But in these days, back in the day, and I think this took place in like the 60s or 70s, or maybe it was the 50s. I can't remember the time period, but this was like way back. Oh, sorry, 1944. It was in 1944. So anyway, back then when they would do combatives, they would box. And so I just remember there was a scene where Denzel Washington mouthed off something smart to Adolph Caesar's character, and Adolph Caesar, being an older sergeant, I guess the younger guys thought, if you're going to put rank aside and step into this circle, then now's my time to get my aggression out on you for being such an asshole to us. So this is a young Denzel Washington, and he's filled with like anger at this sergeant who's just being an asshole to them, to all the guys, especially to him. So he comes in there, and you're like, all right, Denzel's about to give this sergeant his much needed comeuppance for being such a jerk to him, but the sergeant like just punishes him. And I remember watching that film when I was younger and just being horrified that here's a guy who was a sergeant who was supposed to be in charge of these soldiers, training them and taking care of them, and he's using that power to belittle them, and this is even before the fight, and abuse them, but then physically cause them harm and cause them pain, like he's beating them up. And I just remember that horrifying me, and it goes a long way to show the motivations for why he was ultimately killed. And you're still trying to, and goddamn, I'm about to call him Henry Rollins, but Mr. Davenport, Howard Rollins Jr. Is trying to investigate who killed him. So when it's ultimately revealed who killed him, you kind of get an understanding of why it happened. Doesn't make it right, and it doesn't make his job easier for when he has to take this person in. But you kind of see how in that the way that Adolph Caesar portrayed this Sergeant Waters as being this monster. But it was always that fist fight of that sergeant actually putting his hands physically on his lower enlisted soldier that stuck out to me. So much so that when I joined the Army, I joined the Army when I was like, 25, 26. Always had that in the back of my mind. I wonder if these drill sergeants or these sergeants, if when we go do combats, I wonder if they're going to put their hands on me because I'm going to end up fucking somebody up. As I always just remember, like, I just didn't see how you could do that. Like, if you're put in charge of these soldiers, if these guys their lives are put in your hands and you're supposed to teach them and nurture them and train them, like, how could you be so cruel and mean to them? So that scene always, like, struck a nerve with me.
Did you ever have to fuck anybody up?
Oh, I did combatives. Like, I'm not even, I never lost a round of combatives when I was in the service. I can proudly say that. I did, like, in basic training, we had this huge pit, and it was almost like maybe like a quarter of a football field long, and everybody got in there from a platoon. It was basically like Royal Rumble. Like, you get paired up with somebody, they blow the whistle, and you do combatives until one of you taps out. That person taps out, the person that taps out steps out of the pit, and the remaining people pair up with somebody else, and you just stay in there and you just keep going until it's whittled down to the last one.
It's like a spelling bee for violence.
Yes, it's like that. So we had a bunch of combative experiences like that in the service. But I never got my ass whooped, never tapped out once a day in my military career. So I have that proudly on my chest. But anyway, that scene in A Soldier Story, that fisticuffs, that sergeant putting his hand on his lower enlisted soldier has to be like my number 3. Have you seen that film, Brad?
I have never seen that movie.
You have to see that movie. It is outstanding. It is a very good, not a procedural drama, but he's trying to figure out who killed this sergeant, and he's going through to the different soldiers and getting a different story from everyone else, almost like the Rashomon kind of effect. So I highly recommend that.
I've
Brian,
added it to the list.
Yes, Brian, you're number 2.
Number 2, I'm going to go with something that you guys know that I all love.
Kill Bill.
Well, that's one thing, but no, it's not Kill Bill. Was there a fist fight in there? I'm not sure. Anyway, this would be Fast and Furious, which would be one Fast 5, which would be one Rock versus Vin Diesel.
Oh, yeah.
So, Fast 5, we could say, was kind of like the turning point of this franchise. And bringing in Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was a great move for Vin Diesel and the crew to add him to the cast. And once he was added to this cast, a lot of people really wanted to see The Rock and Vin Diesel go head-to-head. And with this film, and we got it in the trailers, we all knew that this fight was coming. So, and it didn't disappoint. I mean, we got all the great wrestling moves that The Rock is kind of known for, and Vin Diesel gets to kind of showcase some of what he can do. And it takes place in like this warehouse, and like puts him through a window, and they're going through doors, and then they're jumping through, and then like just it's all over the place. And The Rock with his oily self, I'm surprised that Vin Diesel was able to grab him and actually get a good punch in, because he's so sweaty.
The Rock comes from that transporter school of oily fighting.
Yeah, he's just so greasy. It's just, but yeah, I love the bringing The Rock into this world, and he's been in every film, and he's going to be in the Fate of the Furious, this 8th film. So I'm excited to see where this franchise goes, even though I wasn't that excited for the 7th one.
Here's my thing. So it's no secret that I'm not a big fan of the Fast franchise, and
because you don't like joy in your life.
I don't. But
much.
But in the trailer, when they reveal that the Statham is teaming up with The Rock, like that shit, I'm excited for that. Like, because seeing them fight each other, I don't think Statham can't. I mean, The Rock can't beat Jason Statham. I just don't buy that. And then like what they were doing with the last movie, I just didn't buy that. But seeing them team up, that makes me happy, and I'm excited. Cool. I'm really excited.
I want to see that movie. I want to see The Rock and Statham.
Yeah, just them in their own movie. Yeah,
as long as they're not wearing shirts.
Yeah, that too. Spin that off. The Rock and Statham. I'm there. So I would champion that all day long. Lisa, what is your number 2 in a fistful of fistfights?
The greatest fight that humanity has is the fight against oneself. So that is why my number 2 fist fight is the fist fight of Beatrix Kiddo versus the casket in Kill Bill Volume 2.
Nice.
Right? She thought she had come to the end of the road. She had been defeated. She had been buried alive.
Interesting.
But then,
like it.
In the confinement of that box, she recalls her training from Pai Mei and how Pai Mei taught her to think beyond her pain and think beyond her suffering, to tap into her essential strength, which is the strength that got her to punch through that hard wood of the casket and burst forth from the grave phoenix-like.
I love this. Oh, it's
such a great movie.
Oh man, when that music kicks in and she's like, and then you see like her fist and the blood.
Oh my God, the scabby scabs.
Yeah.
Oh, I could not do that. I would just be like, I'm good.
And it's such a great break when she's stuck in there to go to that Pai Mei story to tell that whole training sequence and that backstory, and then coming back to oh God, I want to rewatch it so much. Oh, I love that movie. Yeah. Love that movie.
Brad, your number 2.
My pick comes from a film series that is not as good as Kill Bill.
Oh.
And in fact, most of the film series is quite terrible, and this movie is the worst of all of them.
Oh.
And that is Jason Takes Manhattan. And I am so frustrated with this film because it starts off in, Crystal Lake, and these teenagers they've graduated and they just want to party and they want to go to New York City, so they're going to get on this boat, and they're on this boat for almost the entire film. And I thought it was called Jason Takes Manhattan, not Jason lumbers about killing teenagers in the boat for 2 hours. But finally, Jason Voorhees, like the great immigrants of yesteryear, sees the Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, your weak, your psychopathic. And he gets onto Ellis Island and eventually to Manhattan. And he goes toe-to-toe with Julius. And Julius is like tracksuited out. And he's like, who's this, homeboy in a hockey mask? I'm going to take him out. He's just a chump. But Jason Voorhees, he's been watching those Rocky films. And, he lets Julius get like a few good punches in. But then in one powerful, double dragon uppercut, he takes and knocks Julius's block off, and his skull
literally
goes flying off of a rooftop
into what?
Into a garbage can.
Yeah.
Right into a garbage can. One punch Jason.
Yeah. Which there's also a shot like that in Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh yeah.
What are you gonna do? Knock my block off?
And I do think it's this moment in Jason Takes Manhattan that the Mortal Kombat recruitment team was watching when they brought him on board for their latest entry.
All right, that's a good pick. My number 2 is got to be Cody versus Raven from Walter Hill's rock and roll fable Streets of Fire.
Oh.
So at the end of the film,
is that a fist fight or is that a sledgehammer
Well, they
fight?
start with the sledgehammer, but they drop him, and then those last remaining blows are delivered tiringly with just their fists. So Michael Pere's Cody, the drifter who's come back from the army or whatever sabbatical he was on, and he's come back to his town and is being overrun by Willem Dafoe's greasy-haired Raven, and Ellen Aim gets kidnapped, and they kidnap her back, and Willem Dafoe says, all right, well, if you don't give her back to me, me and my biker crew are going to come to the town, and we're going to wreck shit. And so that's basically what happens at the end of the film. But instead of hightailing it out of there or running, Cody stands his ground, backed by the police, of course, and a Bill Paxton, and Rick Moranis, and Diane Lane, which would be later on, she would find a baby from Krypton and raise him as her own. But anyway, until then, she was a rock star in her previous life. And so Willem Dafoe comes with his posse and his bike gang, and they come ready to start some shit. And he gets off his bike, but he says, it's just me and you to Cody. And they square off. At first, they start off with axes, if I'm not mistaken. And then they switch to sledgehammers. And then they switch to fisticuffs. And it's a brutal fight. Even before the fisticuffs, when they have the sledgehammers. Who fights with sledgehammers? Like, that's hardcore. That's hardcore. So they're fighting with sledgehammers.
That's not a fist fight.
It is not a fist fight. But then they put the sledgehammers down, and then they fight with their fists. The last remaining blows to each of the gentlemen are delivered with their fists.
Okay.
Brian and I are skeptical.
I'm saying it's a fist fight. They fight with their fists. The last blows, he knocks them out. Actually, he doesn't knock them out. He beats them to a pulp, and Willem Dafoe's tired, and then he just pushes them over because he's spent. But those last blows, he repeatedly punches Willem Dafoe like in the face. Like he's just giving it to him when he has that comeback strength. You know, like the comeback, like, oh shit, I'm losing, but now I'm gonna come back. Mm-hmm. So those last part of that fight is with fists. Right. So I challenge. Go back and watch it. I challenge. Pull up on YouTube.
It's a great movie.
It's an awesome movie. All right. Brian, you said Mortal Kombat. Fucking Reptile was doing. You just said it. Liu Kang did bicycle kicks and shit.
But they didn't have any weapons. They used just their person. Just everything.
It's not a fistful of person fights. It's fist fights, not fistful of feet fights with bicycle kicks.
Well, they use their hands too.
So did Willem Dafoe and Michael Pere.
But a sledgehammer is not a part of the body. Sledgehammer is not a part of the body. It's not. It's not.
The last part of that fight, the finishing blow, was delivered with what in your fight?
What, my fight?
Yeah. Feet. He did the bicycle kick.
Your feet are part of your body.
It's not a fistful of feet fights. It's fist fights. The last blows in my fight. We'll take it to Twitter. Listeners, hit me up on Twitter. Hit Brian up at the Turtle Dork or at the Turtle Dork 1 because he doesn't have Turtle Dork rights on Instagram, and at the Disco Dork, and let us know. Am I wrong or am I right? Is Brian wrong or is he right? Brian.
I think the most important thing is that I'm the most right because all of mine were exclusively. Nobody had to put shit down. Nobody had to use their feet.
Wife Dork doesn't count. She's perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm fallible. Brian definitely is fallible.
Yeah, so I feel like
who's the least fallible? Well, you got to start making some mistakes. Be fallible.
Oh, okay.
See?
Yeah, be like John McClane.
No, people can't relate to perfection. They don't know what it's like to live in your world. They can relate to me.
I like rules. I like playing by.
There you go.
Yeah, me too. All right, Brian, what's your number one played by the rules pick in your fistful of fist fights?
So
Only fisticuffs, no feet, no
And
weapons.
this one is that. This my number one pick that has no sledgehammers is I'm going to your point, Brad. Not a great film, but I love it. Rocky V.
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah, the last fight with Tommy Guns in the
alleyway.
in the alley.
God damn. Only in America.
Only in America.
That's my favorite part of the whole movie.
or no, the one part was just touch me and I'll sue you.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, punk, touch me. Oh, he's so
I can't
great.
believe we're quoting Rocky V.
Because that,
Look,
hey, I got to
look,
give it to Brian.
I have the box set, and I like Rocky V. I don't know what a lot of people talk about. I love all the Rocky films.
So boring.
Is that you knocked him down? Won't you try knocking me down?
Yeah. That when he's in the bar, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that
That's a good pick, Brad.
Man, I love, and it's like, I mean, granted, we don't get the final fight in the boxing ring, you know, that we normally got with the last 4 movies.
But he took it back to the streets.
Yeah, they took it to the streets, and it works for me. Like, I really like that fight. I mean, and then you have that whole
Song, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I know, and Brad is shaking his head. Like, what's wrong with Rocky V?
What's wrong? Go for it.
It's so lame.
Really?
It's lame.
You don't like the rags to riches and back to rags story?
The tumor story? No, I don't. He took down communist Russia.
But it does a great job of following off of Rocky IV. You saw those hits that he took
There's
from
like
Drago.
80% less montages in 5. Not as good.
Yeah,
Not
there does need to be more montages.
There's a montage with Go For It, right? That was a montage
Yeah,
song.
there's like one montage in 5. 4 is like
Yeah, it's
60% of the film is montage.
Yeah. But man, the end of that fight. I mean, talking about
40%
the fight.
is Apollo Creed twitching on the floor.
Talking about the fight though. That was pretty.
I don't even remember it. It's because as a kid, when Rocky V came out, I was so disappointed that it wasn't in the same universe as Rocky IV.
Yeah.
And what could be
Yeah.
no James Brown this time.
No. No.
That I was deeply disappointed, and that they took all his money away.
Yeah.
He'd earned all that money.
Yeah, they stripped him of
What
everything.
about this robot?
Yeah, they-
No
Taxes.
robot.
You gotta pay your taxes, baby. Rocky Balboa tried to Wesley Snipes it. Yeah,
Well, I love that last fight though with him and Tommy.
When's the
Gunn.
last time you watched that? Bitch?
It's been a decade at least.
Do you have the box set? Do you have it?
I do have the box set, and I always skip over 5.
Really?
I go from 4 to Rocky Balboa.
Now, I'm not saying that you're going to love it or even like it. You probably end up hating it more, but I do think you should watch it again.
Well, Lisa and I have been talking about watching the entire Rocky series, going all the way to Creed.
Oh man,
and we'll probably do that in the next couple of months.
Oh, absolutely.
okay.
Yeah.
I love to hear. Have you seen Rocky V?
No, she's only seen Rocky 1 and 4.
Oh
Shit.
Okay.
And I've seen Rocky Balboa, and
Oh, yeah.
I've seen Creed.
Yeah, and those two.
Okay.
But she
Yeah.
hasn't seen Clubber Lang.
Oh yeah.
He's
That's
a villain.
it. And Thunderlips. Yikes. Lisa,
Yes.
you're number 1.
My number 1 combines the power discrepancy in Predator. Not as extreme power discrepancy, but a power discrepancy as in Predator. The calculation of Sherlock Holmes, the passion of A Christmas Story, and the inner strength of Kill Bill Volume 2. And it plugs a future episode of It Mod Chatcast.
Yeah.
So my number 1 is the final fight between Diana and Adrian in Girl Fight.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good pick.
Thank you.
Good pick.
And so everyone should watch that movie in anticipation
Yep.
of our future It Mod Chatcast with Karin Kusama. Thanks to #IndieDork, Billy Doss, at whatever his Twitter is. You can find it
WB Doss.
on the internet.
Damn.
WB Doss. I follow him.
All right, Brad, you're number 1. We better have the same number 1.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Because my number 1 comes from one of my all-time favorite comic book characters, Darren.
What?
And one of your all-time favorite comic book characters.
I know what you're picking. Still a good pick. Okay.
And it is in the first film in the Captain America franchise.
Yep, I knew it.
And it's with young Steve Rogers before he's gone through the man machine of Dr. Erskine, and he's sitting in a theater. He's watching these news serials of all these young men going off to war and sacrificing their lives for country, and he is unable to do so because of his physical ailments. And he just keeps going and to the recruitment office and trying different names and trying different personas, and keeps getting rejected. And while he's watching these newsreels, he sees a woman crying because obviously she has somebody off in Europe or the Pacific and not at home. And he sees this asshole that would not survive 1 second in an Alamo draft house, mind you, talking and booing and just wants to get to the cartoons and who cares about the news. And Steve Rogers, despite his scrawny frame, sticks up for this woman and all those GIs who are out there and says, pipe down, shut up, and you want to take this outside. And they go into the back alley, and he proceeds to get the shit kicked out of him. And he keeps standing up, and gets punched down. He stands up, he gets punched down. He grabs a trash can lid, and gets punched down. And he says, I could do this all day. Mm-hmm. And that just really speaks to the heart of Steve Rogers that would carry over into Captain America when he does get that ability, that superhuman strength. And, that spirit you'll see mirrored later on in that film when he goes up against the Red Skull and he gets his ass handed to him again. And he says to the Red Skull, hey, I could do this all day. You're not going to defeat me. You knock me down, I get back up. And he carries that attitude all the way back forward to Captain America: Civil War with Tony Stark and his battle there, because if he believes that he is in the right, and whether he is or not, Darren, in Captain America: Civil War, he believes it, and he's going to stand up to Tony Stark. He's not going to let this man of iron crack his skull.
Yeah. I love that when he says it in Civil War. It just gives me goosebumps, man.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things about the Marvel films that I love. Sometimes they don't quite capture the spirit of the comic books, but in Steve Rogers and in that moment, that really does stem from what Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created so long ago, and what's continued on with guys like Ed Brubaker and even Rick Remender and Gene Colan and all of the people who've touched and tapped into Captain America. That spirit of not allowing yourself to get knocked down.
All right, good pick.
So what's the number one, Darren?
My number one pick, which I thought was going to be, if not your number one, somewhere on your list. I was actually worried. I was afraid that you were going to say it before I got to it. But it is, in this day and age, most action heroes or action guys, they're of the Jason Bourne era. They have some type of martial arts or mixed martial arts training. So a lot of action sequences aren't just fist fights. They're ground takedowns and their kicks and their punches and things like that. But this gentleman comes from the old school of no kicks, just punches. And one of the reasons why he's my number one is not just for the fact that he punched. Actually, the reason why he's number one is because nobody's punches sound like Indiana Jones's punches.
Oh, no.
And I love Indiana Jones's punches because of the way they sound. They almost sound like muted gunshots. They sound like someone taking something like a cinder block and smashing it into just like a slab of beef or something. And it's one of my favorites. The Indiana Jones films have, they all have a unique score and they all have unique sound effects. But the punches and the gun shots are also unique to the film. But just the way that those punches sound. So, he punches a lot of people in the Indiana Jones film. But I have to say, like, my favorite fist fight is between he and the bald-headed guy in the airplane, where he ends up punching the guy into the propellers. But yeah, taking hits and getting hits. Also going back to what you said with Steve Rogers is another character who, because of his righteousness and what he believes in for the good of mankind and perseverance, like he's someone else who could do this all day. Like Indy constantly, he's not the untouchable action hero. He's very much touchable, and he gets touched a lot brutally, and he gets pummeled a lot. But he always gets back up, and he always dishes it back out. And that scene in the airfield is just one of many that showcase Indy's ability to not only take hits, but give them back. And so, yeah, it's an iconic scene. And now that when I think about that scene, I can't help but think about the fan film and their recreation of that and everything that went into that that movie and redoing that film and in that scene specifically. But yeah, when I think about punches and fist fights, Indy comes to mind first, just because I hear it before I even see it in my mind. I hear that punch, and I love the way those punches sound. So there's totally unique sound to a totally unique character, one of the greatest in all cinema. So yeah, that's got to be my number one, Fistful of Fist Fights. Brian.
Yes, sir.
Tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me at The Total Dork 1, Brian William Young, at all social medias. I'm not going to let you know which one. I'll let you decide. It's like a game.
Lisa, tell the people where they can find you.
At Sidewalk Siren on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd.
Brad Gullickson. Mouthdork.
You can find me at Mouthdork on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Untapped, and Snapchat. And guys, I'm going to Snapchat something tonight.
Ooh, all right. Sounds dirty.
And I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Letterboxd at the Disco Dork. Follow the podcast on Twitter at ItModcast. Let us know what your fistful of fist fights are. And if you've seen fist fights, let us know, what you thought of the film.
Coffee.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. What else is coming out besides Fist Fight?
A Cure for Wellness.
Yes, that.
The Wall.
The Great Wall.
The Great Wall.
I'm looking forward to
You
seeing
should all
that.
see A Cure for Wellness.
Yeah. Check that out. And also let us know what you thought of the film on social media. Yeah. That's going to do it for us. Again, thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Go watch some movies. And until next time.